Using linear models, correlation, and best fitting lines. When we talk about correlation, we want to talk about the trend of the plots in a scatter plot. So there are three different forms, and you want to look at it as it goes from left to right. So this very first one, as you're looking from left to right, the plots tend to go in an upward trend. So we call that a positive correlation. In the second one, they go in a downward trend. So this is called a negative correlation. And if the plots are just kind of all over the place and they don't trend in any direction, you want to say that there is no correlation. Since we're talking about scatter plots and the plots don't line up perfectly on a straight line, we want to be able to find the best fitting line. So given each table of values, we need to find that line of best fit rounded to 3 decimal places. Now you've seen tables of values before that you've been able to plot on a graph and find the equation of that line. But when you look at these points, the decimals are going to make it kind of hard to plot, and also, again, like we said, it's going to end up being a scatter plot. Finding the type of correlation won't be difficult once it's plotted, but the equation of the line will take some more work. If you do it by hand, it'll be very tedious, or you can use your graphing calculator. So, if you have your graphing calculator, now would be the time to pause the video, go get it, and bring it back, because we're going to need it for the rest of the lesson today. The first thing I need you to do is go ahead and write down all of these steps. These steps are going to be vital in getting you through this process. You're going to need to learn how to plot the points, set the window, find the equation of the line of best fit, and to be able to graph it. So write down these directions for entering data as a list and to set the window, and when you're finished, come back and press play so that I can give you the next set of directions. Now we have directions on how to graph, and also to obtain the line of best fit, I'm going to give you 2 different types of directions. The first set is for the new software. So if you have a TI-84 Plus that has the new software, then this is the set of directions you want to follow. So go ahead, press pause, write all of this down, and then come back and press play when you're ready for the next set of directions. Now if you have a TI-83, and even some of the older TI-84s use the older software, so this is the set of directions you want to follow. I would say write this down as well, in addition to the other set of directions that you already wrote down, just in case you end up using a different calculator at some point. Now pause, write it down, and when you're finished, come back and we'll start going over the first set of examples. So here, this is a look at that first example that we talked about. It's the exact same table. If you didn't write it down before, go ahead and take the time to write it down now. And then I'm going to walk you through the process of how to put this in your calculator, how we can find the correlation, graph it, and find the equation for the line of best fit. So once you're finished writing down these values, then come back and press play, and I'll show you how to do this on the calculator. So in order to show you a little more easily, I pulled out my TI-84 Plus, and it is a silver edition, but just to let you know, even though it's a TI-84 Plus silver edition, this is the older software. So I'm going to be following the directions for the older software, which really only differs when we're trying to obtain the line of best fit. So first, we're going to follow these directions step by step. So to enter the data, we want to go to y equals, and if you have any equations here like I do, you just want to clear them all. And then we want to hit stat, and you want to choose number 1 for edit. And then again, we want to clear these lists. We clear them by going up to the heading, hit clear, enter, and then scroll over to L1, again go up to the heading, hit clear, and enter again. Now we want to type in all of our information. So for L1, we're going to type in our x values, which we have in our first table, -3, negative 2.5, negative 2, negative 1.75, negative 1.5, negative 1, negative 0.5, 0, and then we have 0.5, we have 0.75, then 1, and then 1.5. Now we want to cursor over and type in our y values for L2. So we have 0.25, 0.5, 1, 1.5, 1.25, 2, 2.5, 2.5 again, 3, 3.25, 3.5, and 3.75. Now once you've finished, you want to make sure that your x and y values line up and you have the same amount. Now if they're uneven, that means you either missed a number or you put one in twice. So you need to be really, really careful the very first time you type in your numbers, because going through and retyping them is not going to be fun. Now, after you've typed in your numbers, we want to set the window. So we're going to go to Zoom, and then we need to find Zoom Stat. So if you scroll down, we find Zoom Stat at number 9. So you can hit 9 or enter, and you should see your plots. Now if you don't see your plots, that's okay. We just need to follow in step 3, how to graph it. So if you don't see your plots on the screen, follow these steps with me. We want to hit second, and we want to get stat plot, which is above the y equals key. And then for the first one, we want to hit enter to change those options. Make sure that we've turned it on and you have the scatter plot option selected, that the X list says L1, those were our X values, and Y list says L2. Then, once those are all selected, you want to hit graph. Now you should definitely see your plots if you didn't see them before. Now the last step, we need to obtain the line of best fit. So like I said, I have the older software, so I'm going to be following the directions of the older software. If you have a newer TI-84 Plus with the new software, just follow that set of directions I've given you. It is going to be very similar, it's just slightly different. So we want to hit Stat and cursor over to Calc, and then we want to choose the fourth option, the linear regression, AX plus B. And then right next to it, we want to type in y sub 1, and we're going to get that by choosing vars, cursor over to y vars, and then we want that first option, function, and we want y1. And then once you have this in that home screen, you can hit enter. Now this is going to give you the equation of the line. So it tells you that the equation of the line of best fit is in the form y equals ax plus b, which is a linear equation, mx plus b, and it tells you what a and b are. Now, these are non-terminating decimals, so they're not going to end. For the sake of getting the equation of the line written down on your paper, you want to round to 3 decimal places. But we're going to keep them like this in the calculator so that we can graph it. So if you want to see that line with your plot, I know my window already shows it down here, but if you hit graph, then it'll graph the line of best fit in your scatter plot for you. So when we come back to our example, we can write that the type of correlation was positive because it went in an upward trend, and our equation should be y equals 0.797x plus 2.648, rounded to 3 decimal places. So I want you to go ahead and pause, Try these next two examples, follow the steps as carefully as you can, and try to memorize the steps slowly as you walk through this. And then when you're finished, check back with me and see if you got them right. For example 2, hopefully you got that the correlation was negative, and the equation is y equals negative 0.769x minus 0.234. And for example 3, you should have gotten that the correlation is positive. And I know I have two equations written. This is the correct answer. Y equals 5.816x plus 1.951. If you wrote down y equals 5.815x plus 1.950, then the issue is that you didn't round correctly. So that last digit, remember, when you're rounding to 3 decimal places, you actually need to look at the 4th digit. And if that 4th digit is 5 or higher, then you're going to need to take this and bump it up so that 0 becomes a 1. If it was 4 or below that 4th digit, then you would leave this as a 0. So if you need a reminder and a refresher on rounding, make sure you come see me either during class, after school, or during Bulldog Block. In order to get to the next set of examples, the first part is going to be the same, but we are going to add a certain part to our problems, and we need to be able to predict a specific value. There are 2 different ways to do it, so I want you to pause, write down these directions, both, and then we'll work them out and see which one you like best. So when you're finished writing them down, come back and then we'll move on. So we're going to work through 2 more examples, okay? So go ahead and take the time to write this down, example 4, and then I'm going to switch back over to my calculator mode so I can show you how to do this on the calculator. Okay, so we're back over on the calculator. I'm just going to clear my key press history so you can see the new set. But we want to start off in the same fashion. We want to go to y equals, and then we want to clear that data, and then we'll go to stat, and we want to edit. In L2, we need to clear that column. Same with L1, go over to the heading, clear, enter, and now we can start typing in our information. So go ahead and type in the data from table 4, which is 15, 10, 9, 15, 20, 18, 11, 8, 20, 7, 9, 10, 11, and 11. And then we'll scroll over to our L2 and type in our Y values, 95, 83, 91, 102, 87, 93, 100, 104, 94, 113, 96, 83, 84, and 102. So again, make sure that your data matches up, and if it doesn't, go back and double check and fix where you made a mistake. Okay. Then our next step, we want to set that window. So zoom, and then 9 is going to be zoom stat. So now you see your scatter plot. So we don't actually have to go through step 3, the graphing option, because it should still be set from the previous examples that we did. Then to obtain the line of best fit, we want to go to stat, cursor over to calc, the 4th option, linear regression, and then we need to select y1 by choosing vars, cursor over to y-vars, function, y1, and then hit enter. There's our equation, and if we want to see the line, hit graph. Now, that's all the stuff we've done. Now the last step in predicting a value, we needed to predict the value of y when x equals 25. So like I said, there are two options, and I'll walk you through both. The first one, hit vars, scroll over to y vars. You want to hit function, choose y1, and now we're in the home screen. So you want to select parentheses, and then you enter the x value that you want to find. So we want an x value of 25. So you're telling the calculator that equation that we have written for y1, you want to find the value when x is 25. So you're going to hit enter, and you get 88.147 when it's rounded. The other way that you can do it is to use the table. So the table is here above the graphing button. So hit second graph to get our table, and then you just want to scroll down until you get the x value that you're looking for, 25, and you get that same answer, 88.147. So now on your paper you can write that it's a negative correlation, you can write down the equation, and you can also write down what y equals, 88.147. Now I want you to pause, go through this last example, all the steps, see if you can do it without, at least this first part, see if you can do it without the directions, and if you can do it from memory, because you're going to need to at some point. And when you're finished, check back with me and see if you got it right. So hopefully you got a positive correlation with the equation y equals 0.937x plus 0.305 and a y value of 9.675. Remember, if you had any questions, submit them on the website, and then we'll talk about it next class. That's it for today.